Hello, hello.
Hey Rich, I can hear you fine. I can't see you at the second, but I can hear you. There we
Right on.
go. Perfect. We're not
How are
live yet. Not
you?
bad. Assuming LinkedIn streaming actually works because it can be horrible at times.
All right, okay. We'll see
It's
how
just
it
very,
goes.
yeah, it just depends whether or not connect. Sometimes I have to close the meeting, reset, refresh the LinkedIn, get new links for it, and put them back into Zoom and brute force it. But it all seems to be working. Done a quick test and it seems okay.
Right on.
How are you doing?
Yeah, good. We're not directly live then. We're not already live.
No, no, not
Oh.
yet.
Yeah, I wasn't sure, like, 'cause yeah, it was like 1 o'clock my time, 12 o'clock, 10 past 12 your time. I don't know. Confused.
No, not live yet. The I've done it through Zoom, so I've turned off the live stream bit at the minute on Zoom because LinkedIn has a tendency to just do weird things if you try and do it directly through there.
Yeah, right.
All ready to go?
Yeah, I mean, I'm down when you are, so I'm
Let's.
pretty easy. Got a cup of tea here, so
I've got my brew as well. Yes, put that where I can reach it out, reaching it. Right, I'll get us on live and we can get going. Let me just. I'll just turn off. So we are now live on LinkedIn with a slight delay. Rich, thank you for coming along and joining me today.
of
This is
course, man.
always it's great to catch up with you. Um, now, people who have heard me talk will have heard me go on and on about the Fakefluencer and working with you and how great it was. But for anyone who's watching who doesn't know who you are, do you want to give a quick rundown of yourself, the Rich Tella story?
Oh, yeah, I mean, I guess sort of started 2013, 14. I'm going to jump off from there because that's when I kind of learned about the whole crypto stuff and got interested in that, which has kind of projected me into the filmmaking and everything, right? But my background is in the arts. So I do have not a specific background in filmmaking, but I did make a lot of digital media based installations and stuff back then. But
Yeah,
yeah, like 2013, 14 or something, I jumped on this sort of crypto bandwagon and I was like, what's this all about? You know, did a heap of homework, took a course, etc., etc.
yeah,
And yeah, I started sort of tinkering and playing with some of the technologies back then and had a few startups. Quids was one of them. Um, and then working for ChromeAway, launching the Chromia products and stuff, allowed me to see sort of my own, the perspective from a startup in what was referred to as crypto back then. It wasn't really Web3,
yeah,
right? Or even DeFi, but starting your own thing and then going into an already established, well-funded startup, seeing it from that perspective, and all the different characters along the way that I met, got me to a point in like 2019 where I created this Bitman 360 character,
mm,
right? It was like a faux crypto influencer, but just flipped him on his head. And rather than him constantly sort of, you know, doing sort of dodgy shit, I kind of peppered him. Well, let's assume, imagine if he was telling the truth about the space. So it was kind of an honest influencer. But yeah, I ran that experiment, making an influencer for like a year.
mm,
And after that, I was like, well, what am I doing with this character? I just drop it. The experiment's over. But so then I decided to write my first feature film. So I wrote up the script about Bitman 360 and Scooter Coin, and this introduced this main character that I've been playing with for like 5 years now, called Tom Gillespie, right? Who's
Mm.
this Aussie journalist who is kind of the purpose for this character was to take, regular folk into the realm of crypto and stuff in like in an entertaining manner. So it was more like mockumentary.
Mm.
Um, and that was, yeah, Fakefluencer was completely scripted out, and that's how we got connected through a mate of ours. And we shot some stuff together, right? And had a bit of
Yeah.
fun in the metaverse back there.
I think one of the things for me about, particularly when you say about Bitman 360, was how plausible yet how absurd he was. Because I remember when you introduced the concept to me, I was like, this is just bonkers. But I had people coming up to me after we did our first interview with you as him in character, saying, oh, you shouldn't be involved with people like this. And they believed he was real. I was like, how can you possibly believe this is real? What do you think made him so plausible?
Oh, well, I mean, it's that arena of crypto, right? It attracts all kinds of wild, and actually, since then, a number of characters have popped up that are equivalent to a degree and turned out to be like perfect scammers as well. I still get people sending me links going, "This reminds me of Bitmap 360." It's like, geez, yeah, the story's even crazier. Like, so I think
But
it's just the fact that it was in from, a character from that realm. It's plausible because of the just the chaos that existed and still exists to some extent, right?
And there's the whole concept you came up with the scooter coin and this idea of being paid to move, which I remember probably a year or so later suddenly started to become a real thing, and there were genuine companies
Yeah.
out there trying to do.
Oh, it's so funny, man. A friend of mine, Linus, who helped us out on that production as well. You remember Linus?
Yeah.
He caught on and he was like, "Man, I want to make Scooter Coin a real coin, you know?" And I was like, "Sounds good. Let's run it, see how it goes." So it ended up, Scooter Chain had its own block. It was a fork of Litecoin,
Mm.
and Linus had a lot of fun toying with it. And yeah, Bitman got in front of it, and it was like somewhere between reality and unreality, right? I mean, it was a thing. It still is a thing. Believe it or not, it's still going on a pulse chain now as well,
Yeah.
which is even stranger. But
So when you were doing the fake fluent, I remember how hard you were working on it, and how I remember thinking how brutal it must have been for you at the time. What were sort of the biggest challenges of doing that as your first? Because it was a feature length film as well. We're not talking like a 10-15 minute documentary here. It was a full length thing. What was the biggest challenge you found doing that sort of project?
um, well, I had the script, right?
Mm.
And that was like, I was always in the mind like, okay, this is just some guidelines, really. You got to be flexible. What you want is not necessarily going to happen. But honestly, coordinating all the various crew that helped out and getting the locations and all that sort of boring and administrative stuff was quite challenging, but also part of the puzzle. Not as
Yeah.
fun as capturing the actual content, but the shooting in VR obviously was extremely challenging because you were basically I was basically trying to direct like at some points up to like 15 people, crew and actors and whilst playing a role as well. That was kind of chaos. But
I
yeah,
remember them those scenes well when we were trying to direct while being a character in it as well, and running off to the distance and running back over to tell us when your
yeah,
character in VR raised his hand. That was when we were to start, and it was
yeah,
what do you think about sort of being that? Because that was all brand new stuff, and VR at that point was, I mean, that was very early days before the Zuckerberg took over the metaverse and all that.
yeah,
Do you
yeah.
think that's a missed opportunity generally for for entertainment to be more focused on VR, or do you think it was a novelty at the time and it's probably kind of had its day?
Well, listen, my approach was as same with the NFTs. If you remember, there was a bunch of NFTs we did on Wax. I was looking and again being flexible with the script and seeing what technologies were available and what was popular at the time. I treated it personally as a bit of a fad. kind of thing. Just like
Mm.
let's weave it in and make it part of this. And also like chat, I think it was called VR chat we were using, right?
Yeah.
There was already a bunch of worlds like Bitcoin, crypto native worlds being built. And we obviously had ZZ, a mate of ours, who was like really engaged in the project and
Mm.
built our own world for us as well, that we could play in. So I think it was just a bit of a thing for the times. Obviously it has, yeah, it's gone wayward a bit now. But I think given the opportunity to do VR filmmaking again, I would certainly would like to be better resourced in terms of like, okay, let's have like proper roles and responsibilities here because yeah, the chaos at that time. I mean, it's the difference between indie, like being an independent, right, and someone that's well resourced. So
Yeah. Do you think a lot of perhaps more resourced filmmakers weren't taking the risks with that sort of area? Because I don't remember seeing anything else that was really doing that blending, and particularly the filming in VR.
there's
I've not
what
seen.
there's one that sticks out. I forget the guy's name now, but it came out maybe a year after or so, and it was like a they were hyping it as the first documentary from VR chat or something. But there was just a couple who were trying, and I think it's again, I think the the medium is the message is something important because the idea that you can just have a talking head in a virtual reality is not very much but the idea that what we were playing with where we had built a world and there was
Mm.
a script and there was scene. We built the worlds to fit the scenes, right? So there was this like collaborative approach where we were using motion and multiple cameras as well, right? We had two to three
Mm.
cameras running.
Yeah.
So always just it wasn't dull cinematography. It was like a good effort at like
Mm.
pushing the boundaries, you know. So,
Yeah.
but I don't know. It's I'm not sure. I haven't really followed the development in terms of like has that become a thing? And then obviously nowadays we've got this whole different ball game with the AI video generators, right?
Yes. I mean, so because that's one of the things I always thought was interesting that normally when you see VR portrayed in film, it's very much a CGI version of VR where you went to the extent of saying, no, we're going to build, as you say, build the world and treat it as a real environment and
Mm.
then do what would traditionally be filmmaking techniques, but inside that environment. Was that something, do you think, that came about because of the, without giving the plot away, the character of Bitman and his goals in it? Or do you think it was something that looking back, you'd retrospectively think actually we should have done that in, or doing it in CGI would be a better approach?
Yeah, I mean, it was a very experimental phase being the first film, but I knew I wanted to have a third place between the digital realm and the analog realm, right?
Yeah.
Because you've got this screen, there was that whole thing about movie making on the screen as well, right?
Mm.
Screen-based movies, and there's quite a bit of that, of course, but it's like finding that space again between the the sort of 2D two-dimensional screen digital world that we all inhabit these days and the analog world. And this seemed like a perfect fit. It was some bridge between the two, you know? So that's how I was thinking about it at the time anyway. But we're going
Yeah.
back like 6 years now, dude. Nearly 6 years.
Oh God. It is incredible it's that long ago, and yet you were pushing the boundaries that much. Because I remember as well the idea you had about, and we did it where we held the first screening of the movie in VR, and Bitman 360 was there, and he secretly filmed it in VR and then released that as a pirate version of the film.
Yeah. Yeah, that was it was a C cat. What was it called? A cam rip
Yeah,
version from
filmed
inside
inside
a
VR.
virtual theater.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
It was
so
keeping it fun, isn't it? So that's kind of that again, and that comes back to like how I deviated a bit over the time into my next productions. I didn't have the script
yeah,
on the following productions. So with this one, at least I was like, okay, we got some direction here,
yeah.
and we leave some space for experimentation and improvisation. But
Yeah. So after the Fakefluencer, then you went. Did you go more into a full documentary style? Because the Fakefluencer, as you say, was very much a pseudo-scripted
Mm.
mockumentary approach. How did you find that shift from, or was it a full shift into a full documentary style? And how did you find that shift?
No, so it was actually um, the if I'm just trying to remember now, like when I was making the fake fluence, I was actually reaching out to real crypto
Mm.
influencers to be in it, right? And I was trying to explain, but no one was interested. And a
Yeah.
couple of these interviews I took anyway, as Tom Gillespie, who, only became recognized after the fake fluencer had been sort of published somewhat. But there was a character called Richard Hart who Tom Gillespie interviewed along with a bunch of
Mm.
others, and they all said, "No, don't not being in your film." But that interview got a lot of traction with the Hexagon community, which is Richard Hart's community, and I ended up sort of going down that rabbit hole. Okay, these guys are interesting. Maybe I'll send Tom, to investigate Hex and
Yeah.
what's going on with this guy. And that kind of, as you'll see, the opening scene of Hexagons and the Time Value of Money, which is a four-part. I'd still call it a mockumentary, but there's actual legit effort journalism going on inside there as well, with the interviews being like the only sort of thing, part of the production that I took genuinely seriously.
Mm.
Um, Took time for the questions and finding the right community members and stuff, you know. But the
So
way it's weaved together is kind of like
yeah.
a little bit
Okay.
of
Does,
fantasy.
and Hexagon's one is about it's Tom Gillespie though, who's not a real person, but he is interviewing real people and discussing the real topics that they are
Yeah,
interested in.
exactly. And Bitman 360 introduces Tom to Hexaco, which is another virtual world that we built, that Zizi, our friend, built
Yeah.
Hexaco City. So the end of the Fake Fluencer is the beginning of the Hexagons doco starts in that final scene of the Fake
Yeah.
Fluencer, and he kind of goes through this portal into Hexaco City, and then starts to learn about what the hell DeFi is, and goes more deeper down the rabbit hole, right?
Yeah. So what was it like working or interviewing hexagons and dealing with them? Because they are quite a, should we say, controversial community in the crypto space.
Oh, for sure. Well, like I say, by chance, I laid some solid groundwork for Gillespie there with the interview with Richard Hart, which is basically their Lord and Savior.
Mm.
And so when Gillespie rocks up and is like, "Hey, I want to do some interviews, learn about Hex, what's going on," and like they were queuing up to be interviewed. So it was, and honestly, like they are, like sort of a perfect like a lot of them in people in crypto and DeFi land, right? They have this set of beliefs that they recycle regardless of the token or even the founder to some degree. So it was mainly like just sort of getting to know the belief structure around the Richard and the
Mm.
token and everything like that, and actually watching that sort of gently arguably fall apart over the following years. Which and also part of Gillespie's approach is also, he likes to try the product. So he started a state hex stake to show that he was like not just here to sort of point his camera at people and then disappear.
Yeah.
He's like, no, I'm committed. Look, I've staked for 1 year. Let's see how it
Yeah.
goes. And obviously, if you see, don't want to exactly. Don't want to spoil the series, but it's quite
Yeah.
a wild ride, not in the direction that he had hoped for.
Yeah. Do you find that with, I mean, obviously your focus is on crypto and DeFi sort of things. Do you find that they do tend to take a sharp corner? I mean, when you're looking at projects thinking, this could be a good topic, but do you find that sometimes it's just too risky because you just don't know what's going to happen, or is that part of the fun of doing it?
It's part of the fun, man. And I mean, you only put down what you budget in for the,
Mm.
for the ride. So. I mean, the worst that could happen, I think, yeah, it was a small loss on Tom's part, but a massive gain in terms of like opening up the community and understanding, like, again, more of a an ethnological approach,
Mm.
sitting with the people, drinking their wine, breaking bread with them, and listening to them and what they believe is kind of part of the fun and the investigation, and that's more where like the journalistic side comes in. And
Yeah,
also having taken the piss, having a bit of a fun, a bit of a dig here and there, knowing that like none of this is just silly internet money, right? Like none of this actually makes sense. A lot of it shouldn't exist.
yeah. Did you find then that the when as the documentary progressed, it became less about an outsider looking in and more about sort of Tom as a character being involved in that space and almost his story through it rather than that sort of third party looking in approach?
Yes, I was extremely conscious of when you go and spend time with people like extended periods, especially like
Mm.
online communities, they kind of want to make you an asset, right?
Yeah.
And there was a lot of effort at that early on to turn Tom into a sort of asset, and still that kind of somewhat continues to this day as well, to be honest. But I've always kind of made sure the character remains kind of plural in his approach as best he can. But I mean,
Mm.
you know when you spend time again, you make friends with people, and you end up liking some people, and you feel it's not like you feel sorry for them, but in a sense, you kind of like, dude, there's a
Yeah.
big world out there. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Um, but that's it's not really for Tom. It's not really part of Tom's MO to be overly judgmental. Again, he'll take the
Mm.
piss. He'll try the product. He'll make friends. He'll make enemies, whatever. But
Mm.
yeah, a lot of it, like I say, the Fakefluencer was the only production this thus far that I've actually scripted outside of other productions that I've worked on. Hexagon's
Yeah.
one was very much organic process, like of discovery, as with the latest DJ generation as well.
Yeah.
So it's a dangerous land, a dangerous path to walk, actually.
Yeah, I was going to say, with Tom being a made-up character and a persona, is that a tricky line to walk where you start to get close to these people, you start to become one of them and bond with them a bit, where they don't necessarily realize that this isn't a real person, this is a characterization who is
Mm.
acting a certain way because that's the character you've written for them.
Yeah, so I think most savvy internet users these days realize, not everyone on these social medias is who they say they are. So like I was and also as you'll see across most of the my personally connected online presence is it's and in the credits it's been in the public domain since day one. Should
Yeah.
someone do an extra couple of clicks? And I think most people do that, or they don't. Eventually, they do or don't, or whatever. Or some one of their friends say, that dude's just a British guy playing an
Mm.
Aussie, right? And they're like, what? And then they find out they're like, oh, that's so cool, whatever. Like most people don't really care. And because Tom's like, well, outside of this recent one where he launched his own shit coin, he's never really peddled like anything outside of his own investigative, productions. Um, and yeah, that changed slightly with the DGen generation because,
Mm.
we can segue into that when you're ready because that's my
Yeah.
latest piece.
I mean, that's one of the things I always thought was interesting, that how people handle that recognition that the characters are just characters, not the real version of you, should we say? Because I know I say I've had comments from people on the past who've seen the interviews we did, particularly during the fake Funter with you in character, and haven't realised that that's just a character, and
Yeah.
that they've thought it was a genuine documentary that was being
Yeah.
worked on. Now it's been brought in as a genuine.
People still call me Tom to this day, even though they know me and have known me for ages. Like they still get the two mixed up, which is kind of funny. But I have like whenever I'm wanting to do some like proper cooperation with people, especially now, like because after two productions, most people know, okay, this is a character.
Hmm.
So the ones you see in the degen generation are largely like already aware. And again, if I ever do any some partnership or business together with people, like I'm, you know, it's the first thing out of the box is like just want to make sure you know who you're working with, right? Rich, Bitjoin Studios, Gillespie is an asset of Bitjoin, and there are others. But no, I've always been open and crystal clear with people. It's up again, it's on to them if they want to be like naive about it or what. A lot of
And
them
you'd
just
hope,
want to play along, eh?
yeah. Well, you'd hope as well in crypto, particularly, a lot of people are going to be more wary about who they are talking to and what they're doing, that they would at least do some basic checks on people.
And I mean, like I say, every production I make has got credits and it has
Yeah.
got IMDb pages. You know, just I'm always top hit on all of this. You can see, so it's not like he's hiding in the shadows, right?
Yeah. So talk to me about the latest project then. How's that different to the previous two and what approach are you taking on it?
Yeah, so after the Hexicans doco came out, there was kind of like a little bit of a excitement from the community, and Gillespie hopped on a bunch of live streams with Hexicans. They actually loved it. They really
Yeah.
enjoyed it. They thought it was like bang on, whether you love Hex or you hate Richard Hart or you love, you know, they were like, it's for everyone. And I was like, perfect. I landed nicely there.
Just where you wanted to be, yeah.
Yeah, didn't create too much of anything, but actually most people did seem to think like, oh, Tom's definitely a Hexican after that. So whatever, whatever. But at that time, I was like, all right, where are we going next? You know, and I was playing with this the bit joinery project idea, which has most recently launched as it under Indikin,
Yeah.
and yeah, I think it was maybe 6 months into that year of 2023 that the Hexicans came back round and were like, "Hey, Pulse Chain has launched. Do you want to launch a token to Gillespie?" And
Yeah.
Tom was like, "Well, I'm looking for my next, you know, path." I was like, "Maybe Tom launches a token." So jumped into that, and um, that sort of set Gillespie on a roll where he's like, okay, let's let's see what Gillespie does if he was to take the bit joinery and build a decentralized filmmaker collective using the G'day token was the name of the
Yeah.
meme coin. And that kind of set him on the path for the Degen Generation docuseries, which is like a six-part docuseries, which again charts Gillespie's kind of journey through more, and again, another level deeper in the rabbit hole down to that DeFi layer
Yeah.
where people are doing all kinds of strange alchemic money things. Um, and you know, it deviated along the way because in real time he was meeting new people. For example, in
Mm.
Poland in the Bitcoin Film Festival, he met a dude called Michael who invited him to Frankfurt Proof of Work and Prague Crypto Anarchy Institute. So he wasn't always with the Pulse Chain people in this one. He kind of started with them and then built momentum and
Moved
off
out from there. Yeah.
different communities. And then obviously it was my job in the edit after the fact, year and a half, 2 years later, when I'd collected all this footage and I was like sitting with a you know 1.5 terabytes, going, okay, right now let's write this now.
How do I turn this into something that's cohesive and makes sense?
Yeah, and luckily I found some approaches to that, but my God, that was a burden for
Mm.
some time. Most of 2025 actually.
Yeah.
Just it was hard to just figure out how it should, get put together because there was so many different opportunities. And that's kind of how it ended up being 6 hours long, right?
Mm.
Because well, 1 hour episodes.
Yeah.
It's like I could squash this down into 2.5, 2 hours, I guess, but why? I got
Yeah.
some space to play
You've got
here.
the freedom to do what you want with it. So,
Exactly.
I mean, these are not short projects you're talking about here. I mean, I remember the Fakefluence was probably 12 to 18 months took after, from when I started with you on it. Hex and Quell on Time is, say, the new docu series took most of a year just to get the footage together.
Mm.
How do you keep going through those times? Because that's something I know a lot of people who maybe are new to the industry or new to looking at this sort of thing probably don't realize the time and work involved. What gives you that bit of motivation to keep at it when you are 6 months in, nothing's really come together yet. How do you
Mm.
keep going?
Oh, I mean, it's the pursuit of novelty, I guess, right? Which is,
Mm,
many will say, is the kind of creative motivation. So it's it's both stressful and exciting to not
mm,
know, like to get sort of breadcrumbs along the way. Like I say, these are not scripted, these last two, right?
yeah,
The next one I do is absolutely going to be scripted. I'm not going to put myself through this again. Purely because again, it's that like, oh, I've got a, here's an opportunity. Or
mm,
have I created this opportunity or has it been created for me, right? It's one
yeah,
of the Indican filmmakers says it like the story writes you.
mm,
And that can be an extremely stressful place to be, man,
yeah,
because you've let yourself out on the line there to be exposed. And I just had to have some core principles that I always came back to that kind of helped me motivate myself. And also like take regular breaks, right? It's like,
mm,
see, don't sweat it kind of thing. If you have the luxury, like you can, it's okay to take the afternoon off, all right? Go to the forest, you know.
yeah. I suppose that's the thing when you've got no, because when you're setting your own deadlines and you're setting your own target destination, you've got that flexibility to say when you're going to get there. But do you find that? I mean, I know you talk to probably a lot of filmmakers, a lot of people in this space, and particularly with the new Indican side, which we'll talk about in a minute. So, do you find that some people just don't have that level of, I'm going to say, focus that you've got? Because I remember how focused you were again when we worked on the Faithfuls to maintain that sort of goal and that direction, even when there's nothing externally motivating you to do it.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to manifest a sort of obsession and also a responsibility, right?
Mm.
Like I'm doing these things in the public realm. They are happening in real time on the timeline, right? So
Yeah.
it's not necessarily um, setting like deadlines and being like overly confident and expressing like I'm going to achieve this by that. It's more like
Mm.
just being open and honest and going, look, it's an exploration. I'm lucky enough to be able to do this with you guys. Thanks for your participation. Um, but obsessing over the potential for the story and like convincing yourself that it's important and that somebody might want to hear it.
Yeah.
Always making sure you're anchored to your own, like I'm doing it for me first, remember? So this is the story I want to understand and tell. And sometimes you're lucky and people will gel with it.
Yeah.
And sometimes they are preoccupied or whatever. But I don't do as like nearly as much marketing efforts or even like corporations with others on these productions, which I hope to change in the future with Indikin, because wearing all these hats is, yeah, again, it can be a burden at times without regular breaks, right?
Yeah. I mean, do you find that the Web3 and DeFi community have been quite supportive and quite helpful in it? You say, I know you spoke about the Hexicans being, very positive about the film when it came out, but during that process, did you find they were quite happy to help you out and introduce you to relevant people and all that sort of thing, or was it a bit of an uphill struggle at times?
Oh, it was a mix of both, right? There was many awesome people I met along the way and have been very helpful. Um, but there's also like some shady characters that you really want access to, but you can't get access to without certain, I don't know. Yeah, it's mostly been a good experience and
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of help. But this has been very indie filmmaking approach, man. So no budget stuff, right? Self-financed. And again, I'm hopeful to change that in the future, just to sort of take it up a notch because there's been opportunities to go and take Gillespie to Hollywood level documentary, but you know, I don't have the access or the resources or that net kind of network in that corner of the world to make that a reality. And so largely part of why, like, okay, well, we'll build it ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Because the Indican project, like and I mean we got lucky in our timing with that as well. Although, there's a lot of disruption in the entertainment industry in general, right? So
Yeah. Well,
arguably
tell us
we're
about
well positioned.
yeah, tell us about the Indican then. So, what was the most well, you've kind of covered the motivation behind it, but give everyone watching a quick overview of what it is and why you think it matters particularly.
Well, I was looking for a solution for again my own productions because I'm kind of under-resourced and wearing too many hats. So I was like looking at this bit joinery project with NFTs and using NFTs as a way to sort of create revenue sources that we can tap into in order to fund productions going forward. That's kind of what we tried to do with a bit with the Fakefluence. We were toying with that with split revenues and everything,
Yeah.
and also into the Hexagons doco. I did the same, which had a little bit of success there off the back of that. Never really understanding how to sort of re understand it at scale. As soon as the degen generation project started to have an identity through the G'day token, I
Mm.
kind of got a peek behind the curtain on how these liquidity webs work and all that kind of interesting stuff that's related to meme coins. And I saw like, oh, here's maybe an opportunity to rethink how the Bitjoinery project could be realized. And that's when it kind of got re-tagged into, re-understood into Indikin, which is indie, independent, kinship. And we tried to blend those two ideas together in a collective of independent filmmakers and creators,
Mm.
which is kind of like the heart of Indikin. And then either side of that, you've got distribution with Indiflix, which is currently up at indikin.online, which is handles your split revenues. It's your Vimeo end, but real-time
Yeah.
split revenues. And then we have the Index, which is the liquidity web, which is currently comprised of filmmaker tokens all pegged to the Indikin token. And the idea is that volume on the index creates revenues in a reward token, which is distributed to all the holders of that token, right? So we're looking for uh, we're looking at creating a revenue source on the tokenomic side, which we can
Mm.
feed into a treasury, which we can put to work on productions. And the same on the other end, where we split revenues with filmmakers from distribution deals or whatever back into a treasury again to feed back to the collective. So it's currently three major components that are arguably, it's alive already on, it's online and it's alive to a sort of a level that we can kind of look at it and go, wow, it's actually working, but now we need to sort of take it up a
Take it
notch.
up. Not yeah.
Yeah, which
So
is the real
yeah.
challenge.
Yeah. Do you find that's one of the common problems, I say, when you talk to filmmakers, that they are having trouble finding these revenue sources, and that this is obviously a lot of them maybe aren't involved in Web3, don't have an idea of tokenomics and that side. This is a potential solution to that for them.
Yeah, so there's been a bit of an evolution in the last sort of 6 to 12 months as well with all the new tooling coming through with the video generators and stuff, right? So we're looking at being sort of a bit thinking of it in components within an ecosystem. Um, the main objective is to create as many revenue sources as possible.
Mm.
And if we can do that on the Web 2 side and the Web 3 side, this is ideal. And currently there's no problem with distribution, really. There's plenty of that, but the deals are shit often,
Yeah.
and algos change, right? So we're going to strip that back and make it sort of really attractive on the distribution end for
Mm.
creators and filmmakers. On the Web 3 end, though, what we have the possibility to do is to create it sort of dedicated indexes on any chain that are all
Yeah.
feeding back to the same, right? And then in addition, we can have partnerships or like plug-in solutions with various tools, whether they're AI or analog, music libraries, VFX talent. This is kind of where we get to build out the talent within the talent pool within the
Mm.
ecosystem. And if we can achieve like multiple revenue streams from people that believe that are on the Web3 side and believe in the vision for a decentralized, filmmaker industry, indie scene like we're trying to develop here, then those are additional revenue sources that we can use to put to work, whether it's analog or whether it's bringing in a new partner, whether it's adding additional features on the distribution end. It's ecosystem design, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
So it's not just about the finance side. You're also building a network of skilled people in various areas who anyone can then. So say you talk about being overworked and wearing too many hats and too many wigs, I would say as well for some of the films. But is this a part of the solution of that then that you know you'll have a resource or anyone who wants to come along has this resource of skilled people who they can say, right, I need a VFX person for this and drop in and get it from there.
Yeah, and every time we add a new filmmaker to the collective, they have their own whole army of artists and creative folk already.
Mm.
It's not just fans. And I think that's kind of where a massive value add is, because there's a blurring between creators and filmmakers, right? But
Mm.
I mean, an easy metric is the length. Like a lot of creators, they feel kind of trapped in these short form social media, you know.
Yeah, the 2 minute, 1 minute clips
Yeah,
scenario.
and they get to a point where they're just trying to they're battling against bot farms doing shorts, for
Mm.
revenues on YouTube. You've seen how
Yeah,
how things have unfolded there, and it's like it becomes a bit of a like an ugly place to be. And I think we have an opportunity to cultivate a kind of a more like an kinship, but retaining independence amongst one
mm.
another to get ourselves in a place where we can support one another at that level without being beholden to these larger, US based platforms. And there's also a massive push away from those nowadays. So
Yeah.
again, quite well positioned.
That's yeah, as a lot of the European countries now do push away from this, could be the ideal time to be in the exact space you're in. I mean, do you find that a lot of the directors or filmmakers you're talking to have looked at those sort of platforms and decided against going down that route, or do you find that they just haven't quite got to the level where they would want to go to there and they still want to in the future, but this is the path to get to that?
Which platforms are you referring?
So things like the larger streaming services, for example, certain ones are more open than others, but as you say, the revenue streams aren't great on them. So the people you're working with and people signing for Indica, have they looked at these and decided against going down that route already, or are they still early enough in the career that they're trying to decide how they should approach it and what they should go down?
So, in my experience, from what I've seen, there's creators that'll grind. I mean, YouTube's the largest, right?
Mm.
So they'll grind on there for years, and they'll find their audience, they'll find their voice, they'll find their revenue, and they'll be quite satisfied. And typically this lasts about 6 months, and then they see something happening with the metrics, and they're like, "What's
Yeah,
going on?" And this is a repeated story across multiple creators online. The platform just tends to and shitification, right? It shits
yeah,
it
it's real.
like like this guy's making too much money. Something's going on here. And I don't know, like I think the ones that want to get to even close to where they're, where some of the bigger channels are already at. And I'm not talking about massive dudes like Mr. Beast or anything. I'm talking about, the tens of thousands of guys that are just, making $2,000 or $3,000 a month or whatever and
Yeah,
surviving happy days, publishing 3 times a week or whatever. Um, I think they more and more what I'm seeing is they are starting to bandy up together and launch
yeah,
their own projects. The first one was Nebula and Curiosity Stream, where a bunch of YouTubers who weren't satisfied with what was going on that platform bandied together and launched their own.
yeah.
And they wanted to own the means of production, like literally. And I think I'm personally seeing more and more of that, and I'm in a bunch of the communities that are rallying around, some flag flying dudes that are like, yeah, we can do this better together.
Yeah.
And I think IndieKin is kind of sitting in that spot as well. Um, the question is like, of course, most people absolutely despise anything DeFi crypto related, especially right now.
Mm.
So it's to talk about the collective and how we have the opportunity to experiment in Web3. And this is why, we have an index because we're running some tests and we believe certain things can
Yeah.
happen. They can't happen in a vacuum. You actually literally need volume. And
Mm.
that's, yeah, the challenge of the next stage is to get to a point where we're like, have significant revenue streams coming from those various kind of alternative economies, if you
Yeah.
like.
So talking of those alternative economies, then you've been in Web3 a long time, or originally it was blockchain, then it became Web3, and now it's DeFi and all these things. What sort of changes are you seeing in that ecosystem at the minute? Because you're both active in it and you're making these documentaries in it. You've probably got quite a lot more insight than the average trader would have. What sort of big shifts are you seeing at the minute? Are we finally getting to that generalized adoption, or is it just still
No,
the
no.
cycle taking a little?
Well, I'm not a trader, so I'm more of an observer, right?
Mm.
A documenter. Uh, I mean, as usual, it's too much supply of everything and no demand. So
Mm.
and you often see the same ideas repeated every other year. It's like, hang on, we've heard that under a different name 2, 3 years
Yeah.
ago, right? So it's this constant like trying to reinvent itself and become applicable to whomever, typically retail, make it sound cool and sexy. After the NFTs things like gone to shit, it's everyone was kind of leaning on these DAOs. DAOs don't
Mm.
work. Now that there's all this talk about real world assets, that shit's like, as far as I'm concerned, they were talking about that back in 2017. Like
Yep.
they didn't figure it out back then. Nobody seemed to want it or care for it. And now I don't know why they think that's going to happen again this time around. But so as usual, I see it like an industry or a bunch of sort of, um, you know, distributed individuals who are trying to rally some or create some sort of momentum around
Mm.
narratives and what have you. And I don't know what's going to stick next, man. Now that it's gone all sort of institutionalized as well, and
Mm.
US government's got behind it, that's put a bit of a taken a bit of the varnish off, right? Supposed to be sort of like
That's it.
power
It was
to
always
the
about
people and all
independence
that.
and self-control stuff. Now everyone's like, yes, US government owns
Yeah,
Bitcoin. It's like, hang on, that's not the goal.
it was strange times. So it's kind of, yeah, the narrative's not necessarily been hijacked, but it's almost certainly fragmented and lost its way. And I mean, I don't know if it can ever pull itself back together again. Maybe it's just on the fringes and like me and you and Linus hypothesized years ago about how it might end. And it's typically like, yeah, the governments will need to coordinate and it will just get pushed into the dark web realm where it came
Yeah.
from. Right? It'll just be back. It will just be for that corner of the internet
And
is
we all
where
have to start saying we're in it for the tech again rather than the money.
it Listen, man, some of the tech is genuinely useful, but
Mm.
it grinds up against traditional, much, much more well-resourced and the legacy stuff. You're competing with giants. So they'll just
Yeah.
gobble you up, right?
That's the thing with it, yeah. So do you see yourself staying making documentaries in this space? Are you looking to branch out into other areas, or is it still going to be this for the foreseeable future?
I'm fully committed to IndieKin. My role at IndieKin is basically like I'm going to be like I have a bunch of ideas for films that I want to write and produce, but I realize now like probably for the next few years it's going to be
Mm.
committed to sort of helping independent filmmakers that join IndieKin, become well versed in the filmmaking process and also and more importantly finding the resources that I wasn't able to find or you know it's not like I was looking so hard. I did want to try and wear all the hats. You want to try a bit of everything just
For
to
the
get a
first time, that's part of the
feel.
fun.
Yeah, exactly. But after a while, after a few years, it's like, yeah, no, I could really do with some other people wearing some of these hats. So like I guess
Yeah,
that's how I see my role as helping filmmakers, creators, get access to the right hat, people wearing the right hats, and the revenues, the cash that they need to realize, those
yeah,
stories that are like out there in the world that may not otherwise get told for whatever reason. And I'm, part of my personal challenge is to not to shit too much on AI.
yeah,
It's, Indican is when you're in a part of a collective, people have all different types of beliefs about, systems and tools and stuff. So
yeah,
I'm open, keep remaining open-minded, and I'm just staying at the forefront of the limitations of what's possible in that
mm,
in that regard. But I think it's going to be a lot slower than people make out. The hype is a bit out of hand at the moment
yeah.
for what
I guess
living.
something like Indica, though, it gives people the options because I assume with quite a wide collective, as you say, you're going to have people who are really using it as a tool and people who go, no, I don't want to touch it at all. And then as a filmmaker, you've got the option to say, well, I now have all the information. I could go and choose based on how I want to do and what my
Yeah, and I
personal
think
mood
that's
was.
important. It's important with such a subject like AI filmmaking. It really, any creative stuff that's taken over by machines or whatever, it really kind of winds creative artists up the wrong
Mm,
way. Takes them a time to adapt, right? So for every it's quite straightforward for us to plug in a digital solution into Indican, like whether it's AI generated subtitles in foreign languages,
mm,
that's actually a good value add. Now my films can reach Spanish speaking people, for example, to make sure that we have analog plugins as well. Like, okay, what if we can partner with studios, people with studio spaces across the world, right? And we can make sure,
yeah,
like, if you're ever in any country, you need to go and shoot something, then we can provide space for that. An analog to digital complementary plugin every stage, I think, is the way forward. Because again, it attracts those people that might on the surface or in public be like very anti AI, but deep down they're like a little bit curious because they're like, what
mm,
the heck? This is quite cool, but I don't, I'm an artist, so I don't have to.
yeah. Can't be visibly seen to be promoting it, but yeah,
And at the end of the day, like it's not up to us, right? Market decides. As like at least that's like what we like to believe, whether however you feel about the free market and
yeah.
a trillion dollar companies without any profit manipulating the narrative. But
Well, yes, there is a lot. That's one thing I found moving into AI from Web3. It's not a more reputable location to be working in at all. It's just got better PR and more budget behind it.
yeah, it's the digital realm, and
Yeah.
online business online just tends to, yeah, it's kind of off the chains, right? It's off the hooks.
Mm.
So it's gone beyond reality now. It exists outside the like regular capitalist economy we understand in the real
Yeah.
world. It's kind of
'Cause
bonkers, but that's the world that we decided to spend our time in. So here we are.
we should all just go live in log cabins in the middle of nowhere and switch off. That's the dream.
Well, you don't have to do it permanently, but it's always good to switch off for a bit now and again and get in the forest.
Yeah.
I'm a big advocate for critical downtime.
Mm. So just before we wrap up, then, someone's watched this, they want to get in touch with you, or they want to be part of Indiekin. What's the best way for them to do that?
Well, you can go to indican.online and you can sign in, check out the library. That's free to do so. You can even publish a profile there to show that you're a creator willing to contribute in future productions or what.
Because there's a lot of productions on there available to view already as well. I don't think we really mentioned that much, but
Yeah,
all these things
there's
are on
like
there to watch.
there's like 55 productions, I think maybe 20 films and some miniseries. There's actually seven filmmakers at the moment. But yeah, I would encourage you to go to Indican.online, create a profile. This is all free to do. So you only, if you want to stream stuff, then you have to, have to start to pay. But scroll to the bottom of the page, you'll find all the social links. Typically, we spend time in the Telegram. So there's a Telegram link down the bottom of the page. And that's kind of like where we have our little back and forth. The team hangs out and stuff. And once a week, every Wednesday, we gather in that room on Telegram and have an audio space for 2 hours. Wednesday is 2 p.m. UTC.
Yeah.
And we also, yeah, that's a good place to come and get to know us, get to know the team, talk the good talk. But if you want to get hold of me personally, you can get hold of me at rich@bitjoinstudios.com or rich@indican.com. And yeah, man, it's been a pleasure.
No, it's been great to catch up, and it's fun reliving all those memories. And it's let's say the amount of people who I've spoken to over the last and worked with over the last 6 years who have burnt out completely, whereas you've managed to maintain that balance, create some incredible work as part of it, which
Oh,
is unusual itself. Web3 things actually getting finished and going live, but actually maintain your sanity as much as you have.
I came this close last year, but yeah,
Mm.
I'm good. I'm feeling fresh for Indikin this year and helping
Yeah,
out the brothers and sisters that come onto the project because we got a lot of talent already in the room, a lot of potential, and timing just feels bang on. So,
yeah. Perfect. Well, thanks very much, then, Rich. I will let you go back to working things, and I will stick all the links to the various sites and so on in the comments for this one. So I will.
uh,
Thanks very much. I will talk to you later.
cheers, Dan.